Okay, yeah, this seems this is a bit of an intense video, but this is a girl who, or it's a woman now, that talks about how she had a pretty horrific experience when she was younger. She was abducted, and yeah, curious about her story. Let's see what we got here.
If I had an abortion, I
Let's
don't
turn myself
consider that
down.
I'd be alive. Because having my girl helped me to grow up, helped me to be this person. And even though I struggle
Interesting.
with PTSD, just having Jeanette by my side, it gave me all the purpose that I needed. Her love helped me.
That's nice.
How does one choose life after experiencing one of the worst things any person can experience, a brutal rape? We're here at the Live Action Lawmakers Summit, and Liana's going to be presenting later to our lawmakers here to talk about that common exceptions that abortion advocates say are necessary for those children conceived in rape. Liana is the founder of Loving.
Okay, so here's the thing. If you decide to keep your baby after something like that happens, I respect it. I understand it. Like, you do you. I get it. But to sit here and advocate that everybody should, I think is very inappropriate. Nobody should have to raise the child of their rapist. That is just a continuous mental health issue. I think it's disgusting, personally. But I guess they have some form of a survivor's bias for them to advocate for it. But okay.
Life, an incredible organization, and her speaking and her story have made it across and around the globe. Liana, thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
Well, last time you came, the whole room was in tears. Everybody was so moved by your grace and your strength, really, your strength to stand up for life. So let's start with the beginning of your story. Tell us about your childhood, and then tell us about really the events that changed your life.
Okay, I'm from Mexico City, but I was taken to Los Angeles when I was 11. And when I was 12, I was walking down the street. I went to like a small shopping center, and I was taken by two guys. I was there for 1 day. And when you're only 12, you don't know why they're taking you. I didn't have any money, so I didn't know what was going to happen or why they were taking me. They were beating me. They raped me over and over.
Jesus.
It was not because they wanted some kind of ransom money. It was just because they were having fun, and they left me for dead. And nobody's prepared for something like that. You always hear it happens to someone else, but you never think it's going to happen to you. But it happens more than we think. We're just getting used to hearing on the news, and we shouldn't normalize something like that. But it happens all the time, and it happened to me. And when I came home from the hospital, I was so depressed because I feel like it was my fault. So I wanted to kill myself,
Jesus.
which I kind of took all my medication, and I overdosed, and I ended up in the hospital, and that's when they told me that I was pregnant. I was not even surprised. I was still in shock from the PTSD. And the doctor told me not to worry because it was legal. Abortion was legal.
Okay.
But in those moments, you only want to hear kindness. You need sympathy. You need.
Well, listen, to me, that is kindness, you know, and I'm not a woman, so I can't speak to that personally. But, you know, if I can imagine, I could be wrong, but I could imagine if something horrific like this happened, the first thing is saying, like, hey, you know, abortion is legal, you can get that. I feel like for most people, or at least a good amount of people that would go through something so horrific, that response would be like, yes, that's what I want to do. I also think if they couldn't get an abortion, that would be much more horrific to the majority of people who would go through this than anything else. So, yeah, I mean, I understand her personally. That upset her probably because she has more traditional values, and I get it. I mean, I respect your traditional values. I just don't like it when people try to push their values onto other people in a forceful way. And for you to say that, like, everybody, like, but she's effectively because she's advocating for this, that, like, you shouldn't be allowed to get an abortion if you're, like, horrifically violently raped. And I just think that's terrible. That's such a terrible thing. To me, it's like, I just feel like that's really fucked up. You know, that's horrible. Like, I think that's, you know, I mean, obviously, I'm pro-choice, you know, and so I generally agree that abortion is okay. But I imagine, you know, even people who are more pro-life, I feel like it makes sense for this type of a case to be an exception, no?
You need love, you need care. So I wonder why he was telling me, you can always get an abortion.
Because
You don't even have to pay for it.
that sounds pretty good.
I asked him, would the abortion take away the trauma? Would take away the rape? And he
No, of course not. But I think that for a lot of people, not everybody, that having that baby would make you feel more traumatized. So it won't take away trauma, but for a lot of people, it'll increase it if they have to go through that. Not everybody, of course, but
he said no. So I didn't understand why he was offering me to have an abortion.
and not to be an asshole, but I feel like I don't know. I'm a little skeptical of. She's saying that she said this to the doctor at 12. I don't think that part's true. I'm not even trying to be rude. I mean, this person went through a horrific thing, and now she's advocating against abortion, which I get it. That's perfectly fine. And I feel like this story, though, like, I don't know if I believe a 12-year-old was like, well, will it take away that? I don't think that she was probably nearly as clear-headed as she's making it seem like she was. But okay, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
He was kind of upset because I said that I was going to keep the baby.
Well, it's a fucking 12-year-old.
I never saw my baby in an ultrasound. They never showed me. They did an ultrasound, but they did tell me if I could hear my baby's heartbeat. And I did. But then, even though before the ultrasound, I already knew that I had a baby inside of me. And I just knew it was my baby. It wasn't anybody else, just my baby. So I didn't want to give my baby the death penalty for a crime that someone else did.
Well,
You were 12 years
again, that's like a whole conversation. I don't think it's a death penalty. I don't think that there is. I don't assign personhood to a fetus. You know, that obviously gets into a whole conversation about when do you assign personhood and whatnot. And that's like a fundamental abortion argument. But to me, it's not a person at all. Not. I mean, I guess like second trimester for me. I don't know. You know, there's a consciousness argument that's going around. That gets into the real like depths of it, which I understand. It's like it doesn't have consciousness, it doesn't have the ability, you know, to have consciousness at that point. Sure, I mean, I guess that makes sense. For me, I know that it doesn't have consciousness. It doesn't feel anything. I don't think it feels pain until 27 weeks. You know, it's just the unfortunate reality of the world, man. You know?
old.
Yes.
Many people who hear the case, and many people use the case of a 12-year-old victim of assault and say, look at this girl. I mean, it's just devastating when most people, they think about it, makes them sick, of a young girl facing the trauma that you faced, the injustice that you faced. What would you say to those people, though, who use your exact story? The 12-year-old girl who's then raped, and then you're pregnant, who use your story to say, we need abortion?
It makes me really sad because they're blaming.
Well, are people using her story or using comparable stories? Because frankly, I would imagine that most people that went through a similar circumstance would want to be able to have access to an abortion. So,
The baby. They're not blaming the abusers, the rapists, and they want to give the baby the death penalty. And my baby had my blood, my DNA, and it was only mine. It was inside my body, and I just knew that my baby didn't have anything to do with the crime.
Okay.
And it's just an excuse. I feel like they have so much hate, and they want to use it for to profit with your suffering. Because if they really want to help you, they will offer you legal.
Well, what she's saying here is that she thinks that people who want to provide abortions for people who were going through this horrific thing, that they are hateful. Like, are you saying that they want to just kill what you think is a baby? What is the insinuation there? I mean, I don't like, even if you agree with her, that's fine. But do we not understand, like, fundamentally, do you not understand the other side? I get her point. I just disagree with her to advocate against anybody being able to get this. But hate in their heart based on what? Like, no way. Like, I think people are just like, wow, that's horrific. You shouldn't have to raise that, because it'll be a constant reminder of what happened to you, and you might take your own life. Unfortunately, it's terrible.
Medical attention,
Yeah, and who
scholarship, psychological help for the PTSD that we struggle.
Sure.
They never mention anything about the PTSD.
What? Well, yes, they do. They'll talk about what? I'm not trying to be rude, but they'll talk about I've imagined that it would contribute to your PTSD if you had the kid, right? I mean, who's trying to restrict access to getting mental health support after abortion? I feel like that's not part of the conversation because nobody's being restricted in that capacity. So why would that be a conversation, right? Like that has to make sense. I think that's the reason why. No. Okay.
That
Because she's insinuating that these people just don't care about people who are the victims of like sexual assault. What the fuck? Okay.
Killing me, but just knowing that I have my baby girl, it helped me
That's
to heal.
nice.
And I just knew that my daughter had a purpose in life.
Okay.
And she gave me the strength to go on. She gave me hope. She showed me what real love was.
That's
and
nice.
because of her, I'm who I am right now.
That's really nice, and I think that that's great. But also, I don't think that everybody's going to have that same experience. So, yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
Help did you have once you find out you're pregnant, you're dealing with the PTSD and the trauma? I mean, you courageously are saying, this is my baby, I'm going to protect this baby. What happened next?
I didn't have any kind of help. I was just recently coming from Mexico City. We didn't know anybody. We didn't know if it was help available. Nobody talked to me about getting any kind of counseling. I wish they would have done it. It would have helped me a lot.
That would have been nice. Not to be rude, though, but when it comes to conservatives that are advocating for pro-life, just to be very clear, there's no conversation there's no actual real lawmaking conversation about providing supports to people who were sexually assaulted and keep their kid. I just want to be very clear. A lot of times conservatives, Republicans tend to want to cut welfare programs that would hurt people, and you would need welfare programs as a single mother. They don't give a fuck about how fucked up the adoption system is. It's never, hey, let's do pro-life, but also increase the amount of supports we give. It's always, let's do pro-life, and then I don't care until once the baby is born. It's pro-life until birth, and then they don't give a shit about you. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
I only have my mom's example. I need to work. I need to go back to school. And my baby,
At
she
12?
deserves everything because she's innocent. She had nothing to do with this. And just
How did that happen at 12, though? How do you work at 12?
seeing my daughter, seeing her.
I feel like there probably was some kind of support available for her. There's no way that a 12 or a 13-year-old... Didn't she say she was 12, right? Yeah, there's no way that the 13-year-old wasn't helped at all. Okay.
Going, and especially her love.
In
That's
California?
what gets me going. Her love gave me a purpose, and I just knew that she deserved a better life than the one I have.
Okay.
What happened to
So how did you start working at 12? Like, I'm not even trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be rude. There's so many holes in this story. I believe 100% what happened to her. But I feel like a lot of the aspects surrounding it have been politicized, right? Like when she gave that somewhat inspiring question of like, will getting the abortion actually cure my, will take away the trauma? I don't think that doesn't really seem likely that a 12-year-old engaged that way with the doctor. Saying that like she got her shit together so I had to start working at 12, or I had no supports outside of anything. It's like, I don't know if I believe that in California, like probably the most progressive state in the United States. I don't know how much I believe that. I feel like a lot of this has been captured, and then she has a particular story that she says that's not necessarily 100% authentic. And the point is that since what happened to her is horrible, which is true, people are less inclined to criticize her. And if people do question some of the things that she says, you get shamed for being a bad person, for being like, well, this doesn't make too much sense. But maybe I'm wrong.
the perpetrators? Was there ever justice?
No,
That's
he was no
terrible.
justice. For a long time, I was very mad. I was kind of angry. But then I realized that I need to change my attitude and focus on my daughter and focus on me. And I wanted to help and changing that attitude about helping other people, other girls who went through the same thing. It really helped me. I was really sad that they didn't do anything about arresting these guys, but I don't care anymore. I forgive. I don't forget, but I forgive. And I only focus and
Yeah, I mean, I respect that. At the end of the day, she's just trying to move on for herself, and being angry only hurts her. It's not going to bring her any actual justice. It's an unfortunate reality. I mean, if she was angry, I would 100% understand that, but it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I can't do anything to change it. I might as well try to move on and not let it impact me, because that anger is not hurting them. They're not feeling my anger. So, I get that.
how I can help, how I can make a difference, how I can make people understanding that abortion is not a solution.
It is a solution.
When you're raped. It doesn't help you. It's just a double rape. That's the way I thought about it, that it was going to...
That's fine if that's how you thought about it. What you're saying is just objectively incorrect. I mean, just to be clear, not everybody is going to have the same relationship with what happened to them as you. It's not a double rape. And I think it's really fucked up to try to tell somebody who was raped that if they get an abortion, they're basically getting raped again. Because that's what the insinuation there is. I think it's really fucked up. There's like very little sensitivity to people in this situation for some reason.
To be a double rape. And if I did that, I don't think I will be alive today.
Wow, what do you mean by that?
If I had an abortion, I don't consider that I'd be alive.
Okay.
Because having my girl helped me to grow up, helped me to be this person. And even though I struggle with PTSD, just having Jeanette by my side, it gave me all the purpose that I needed. Her love helped me.
Well, your story and your loving life, your organization has given a lot of other women hope and the opportunity to get connected to healing. Tell me about conversations you may have had with other women, especially rape survivors or girls, and how has your testimony impacted them?
We need to change the narrative. They make us believe that your life is destroyed because you were raped, and even worse, because you're pregnant. Like your life has ended because you're having...
I mean, not for nothing. I feel like it's a weird... I don't think that there's a narrative that says these things are happening. I think that people who get assaulted feel like their life is over, and they get really, like, it really fucks them up. And so people are like, okay, let's provide an abortion access to you. It's this subtextual argument that's like, yeah, the mainstream narrative is saying that your life is over once you're sexually assaulted and you can't keep your kid. But that's actually not true. I feel like most women who are assaulted, they want to get the abortion. It's not like other people are telling them they should. It's just that we understand that most people would want to in that situation, and we want to provide it for them. So I don't think it's really like a narrative thing in the way that she's trying to insinuate.
Having a baby. And we need to change that culture. We need to show more sympathy, more kindness, more generosity, because that's what they need. That's what we needed. More love instead of feeling guilty.
I mean, it's not love to force people to give birth.
Guilty, feeling shame. We shouldn't feel shame for something that we didn't do. That is not our fault. They should feel...
Yes, no, you're right. Nobody's trying to make people who are raped feel shamed. I don't think. That's not the current narrative. So what the fuck is she talking about?
Responsible, not us. They make us feel like it's our fault and nobody's going to care for us. Like,
what?
They're feeling sorry for us, and they shouldn't.
They make it seem like it's your fault, but they feel sorry for you? What the fuck are you talking about?
I don't feel like somebody should feel sorry for me because I put myself to work. I ended up going
12?
to school. My daughter finished her career, and we're trying to make a difference in this world. So I don't think we deserve to be feeling sorry for us. So we had to change that. We had to protect these girls. We had to make them feel like they're still, because they still have a value. They're still worth it.
Yeah, I agree.
A lot of the girls, they feel like, okay, my life has ended, so nobody's gonna care for me anymore, so what am I gonna do? And they feel lonely. And I want them to know they're not alone, that there's hope. And yeah, they went through something horrible, but that doesn't define themselves.
Have you talked with other women or girls before who just didn't see what you're discussing. I mean, they couldn't understand what you're saying. They think, oh, abortion, I need to have abortion. Or maybe these aren't even women or girls. These are men who are advocating for abortion, saying we need to have abortion in cases of rape. Because maybe you, Liana, you chose life, but what about that woman or that girl who
Great
doesn't want
question.
to choose life? What about the one that really wants the abortion? What is your response to that?
They can always place those babies in with couples that have been waiting for years for a baby. And when we can understand that you're giving them the chance to live, the opportunity to a family who's been waiting for a baby for many, many years, you feel like you did the right thing because you're not.
There are plenty of children that see this is okay. This is a problem. People who want to adopt like a newborn baby, right? Which is I get it, but then also like, there's a lot of people in foster care systems. Maybe you should get them out of there. But now you want them to go through the bodily, I mean, you could argue like bodily trauma almost of having a baby and birthing it, which puts a big impact on your body, carrying it for 9 months just to give it away. I mean, like, no, I don't think that you should have to go through that. That's horrific. And how do you address the people who are going to have like massively negative mental health problems with having to be forced to give birth to a baby they don't want? I feel like some of these women would take their own lives if they were forced to do this. It's fucked up.
Not can heal by having an abortion, but just knowing that you're doing the right thing and place the baby in a home.
See, that's right there. That's a shame tactic. Knowing that you're doing the right thing by having the baby and placing it in a home. What you're doing is you're saying you're doing the wrong thing if you abort it. It's a partial shame tactic. Dude, I mean, listen, I feel bad for what happened to her, but she's 100% like completely, I think, like manipulative in this situation. I don't think that this is an honest representation of the situation. Like the way that she, like, it sounds to me like she's almost weaponizing her trauma to try to shame other women into forced births.
So much better, and you're going to feel so much faster because you know that you're giving someone else life who didn't have anything to do with the crime.
You have such incredible strength, Liana. I mean, as a young girl, you have it to this day. You've dealt with so much adversity in your life and you've overcome. What gives you that strength?
My daughter's love. She is the one.
She's a beautiful girl.
Yes.
And she's your angel now. I know, yeah, we've lost her, but she's your angel now in heaven.
What, she's dead? What the fuck?
Yes, it's the one.
She's a beautiful girl.
Yes.
And she's your angel now. I know, yeah, we've lost her, but she's your angel now in heaven.
Wait, what the fuck? There's a lot that I need to... What the fuck are we talking about? What the fuck happened? Her kid's dead? What the fuck? How did that happen? I mean, there's a lot of questions. How did that happen? I'm not trying to be rude, but we're talking about the part of... I think it's generally relevant to the conversation. Some of the circumstances that surround you trying to raise a kid as a 13-year-old or 12-year-old. So I feel like what happened to the daughter? What the hell? I mean, that's horrible, but what?
Yeah, she's with me in a different way. You know, if you ask me what was worse, if either rape or losing her.
When did she lose the baby?
But yes, I know that she used to tell me, you have to get up, you're not a quitter. You're so resilient. You have to show girls that he can do it if you did it.
She used to tell you this?
She used to tell me, you have to get up, you're not a quitter. You're
When?
so resilient. You have to show girls that he can do it if
Okay.
you did it. Everybody can do it. And just because of her, I'm here.
She and your spirit,
What are you talking about?
you're making her proud. You're making her proud. You're speaking, you're still traveling, you're spreading your beautiful message. It's ultimately a message of love.
Yes, hope and love.
Hope
I
and
wish
love.
we can change laws to make harder for the rapists, way harder. And
Yeah, I
especially
guess I agree with that, of course.
to change the culture and promote help and kindness for all these girls that they need help.
What is the future for you, Liana? What are you going to do? I know you're continuing your trailblazing.
You heard her say her daughter had a career? Okay, maybe you're right. It's something that's really fucking, I don't know. Something that's really bizarre about, okay.
Your advocacy.
I'm doing speaking engagements in Mexico City, changing the culture that even though abortion is legal, abortion has to be unthinkable. And
I disagree,
I'm going to elementary schools, high schools, shelters, orphanage, jails. And I just finished writing a book, my first book. It's not published yet. I'm still working on it. And I'm just hoping that one day when I look back, something has changed. And losing Jeanette showed me that we're not gonna take anything. The only thing we're taking with us when we leave this world is the things we did for others. It's the words, the kindness words, and all the things we did to try to make a difference. And that's all I want, to try to make a difference. I don't want to just pass through this life. I want to make a difference, and I want to promote resilience.
Last question for you. How do you deal with the haters? Because you have overcome.
I would not want this being said at my elementary school. Yeah, or for my kid. Yeah, I agree. If my kid was having an assembly for this, I wouldn't want them to attend this. This is I mean, depending on how old they are. I mean, they're old enough to, well, you know, it depends on how old they are. Maybe they could, listen to the countering perspective, so make their own decision. But
so much, you are doing so much good, but there are people who hate your story. They don't want your story to make an impact because they think abortion is completely fine.
I don't think most people think abortion is completely fine. I feel like most people understand that it is not great, but it's like a necessary evil almost. I've never heard anybody go, wow, I really fucking love abortion. Most people are like, we should provide abortion to people because there are a lot of complicated circumstances in people's lives, and women typically should have the ability to make that decision of whether they're going to keep the fetus or not. So, you know, if you really want people to give birth more, provide more resources to people to be able to raise their kids in a better way, which is not something that conservative leaning movements ever do. So,
you know, they used to tell me.
Yeah, it's not the story either. It's the actual message. It's the message that abortion is wrong, and she's trying to shame people for getting abortions. So yeah, I think that's what it comes down to. Especially women that are in incredibly vulnerable situations where they were assaulted, and you're saying you should have less rights. You were just assaulted. We're going to forcefully continue your trauma by making you give birth to this child. Like, that's what it boils down to.
If you don't have the abortion, your daughter is going to remind you every day of your rapist. That's not true. She never remind me anybody else but herself.
For other people,
because she's
it might
a
have.
completely other person that has nothing to do with that night. She remind me that her life is worth fighting for, that she is no second-class citizen, that she has the same value as anyone else. And when people tell me all these meaningful things, I don't pay attention because I don't focus on them, because I have so much going on. I have so much to give that I'm only focusing on what I can do, how I can help, how I can make a difference, that I don't pay attention. I think everybody gives whatever's in their heart.
Liana, how can people find your work and follow you and hear about your book when it comes out? We'll be reporting on it too, but tell us how to find you on social media and online.
They can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Liana Rebolledo. I know it's a hard name.
We'll link it in the description. So
Yeah, no, she made it seem like people are shaming kids who are the product of rape. Nobody's doing that. It's just like a lot of weird arguments that aren't real.
People can link to the website.
And my website as well, lianarebolledo.com. That's how they can find me. They can write me, or they can have me, whatever they want me to buy me for.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your courage and inspiration to me and so many other people.
Thank you for having me here.
Okay, so that was something. Jesus Christ. Yeah, so like I said, I feel bad for her and her story. I think it's horrific what happened to her. It makes perfect sense that she wanted to keep her kid, and that's perfectly fine. But trying to shame and force other women into keeping their kids if they were sexually assaulted, I think is terrible. I think it's abusive. And it's going to, for a lot of people, continue just add on to their trauma of already being assaulted and now having a constant reminder. That doesn't mean everybody's going to have that relationship, but some people will, and you should have the right to be able to make that decision yourself, whether it is to abort the kid or to keep the kid. And we should, as a society, help them raise that kid. And if you really want to be pro-life, then stop not giving a shit about these kids after they're born, and maybe provide more mental health structures for them. So, yeah, that's that.